Good morning, students. Welcome to the subject of elective business management. It is the production management that we are dealing, and this is unit number 2. As you can see it, that is of production planning and control. But we have taken up this unit as the 4th unit of the syllabus, so as to make the clarity about the other topics, right? This unit basically I have divided into 3 parts. That is, we are going to check out with production planning first, then comes up is production control, and then the PPC as a function together, right? So production planning and control is very crucial activity of any production department, right? Because once the planning is done, then and then the controlling can be taken up, and only if controlling can be taken up, the production can be done according to the planning, and the overall production can be managed very well in the organization. That is why it plays very important role as the PPC function of the production management area, right? Let us see it first, and then we move on gradually with whatever I have said, like it will be production planning that will be understanding it first, then the control and PPC as a function together. So, production can be considered as the center of the entire business operation, as it takes the major responsibility of manufacturing the products. We all know, right, that if you want to sell anything, it is something which is to be produced, and that production, that area wherein we manufacture something is considered to be the production area. So, production activity can be considered as one of the very crucial activity or major activity, and that is why it is the center of the entire business, because then all the other activities like marketing, selling, HR, finance all revolves around this production activity, right? So it can be considered as very important activity. So PPC looks, that means production planning and control, looks after the manufacturing activity, right? So it mainly comprises of what activity, like planning, routing, dispatching and follow-up function, right? So it is undertaken so that the movement of the materials, performance of the machines and operations of the labor, however subdivided, can be coordinated to proper quantity, quality, time and place. Why it is undertaken? So that the movement, so see, to produce something it takes lot many efforts. It may be so many types of materials, the movement of material is required, even the performance of machines you have to check every now and then. Operations of the labor is to be checked, and how they are to be allocated with the work is to be seen. Their work is subdivided. So howsoever the work may be subdivided, કેવી પણ રીતે વર્ક ડિવાઈડ થયેલું હોય, જેટલાય પણ ઓપરેશન્સ હોય, ગમે તેટલા મટીરિયલ્સ હોય, એની મૂવમેન્ટ હોય, એવરીથિંગ ઇઝ ટુ બી કોઓર્ડિનેટેડ properly, right? So that we can have the correct quantity, the correct quality at the correct time and place, right? So to see this, the PPC function is required. So planning and controlling are two basic and interrelated managerial functions. We know this. We have checked that in under the subject of business organization and management, that planning plays very important role, and it is almost the primary function of the management. So if you want to manage it, manage anything, it is the planning at its base, and controlling is the following activity that is required, and thus it is interrelated activity or a managerial function. And so both are so very interrelated that they are treated as Siamese twins, right? Both are so very interrelated. Planning is related with the controlling of the previous year, and controlling is related, or we check the current period's performance, actual performance with the preset plan. So they are very interrelated and interwoven activity of the firm. So they are treated almost as Siamese twins, where planning is pre-operation activity while control is post-operation activity. Naturally, planning we do it before taking up with any activity, right, or any operation, and control we do it after the operation is undertaken, so that we can see that the operation or the activity is exactly in accordance with the preset plans or not. So planning sets the objectives or the goals and targets considering the available resources with their constraints. So what is the function of planning? Planning sets the objectives, it clears out the goals, it fixes the targets, Considering what? Considering all the available resources of the firm with their limitations. Constraints means limitation. Whatever the resources are, whatever the limitations of resources are, that is to be considered, and on the basis of that the planning is being done in the organization. And that is why the planning of one organization can never be the same as of the other one, right? So it is thus the imperative to install the control system to translate such objectives into reality. Thus it is imperative. Imperative means it is a compulsory function to control the system, so that whatever the plans are there, exactly according to that we are taking up with the activity or not can be checked. So these can be made effective only when some standards of performance are set in advance, right? Only if some kind of functions are set in advance, the performance can be done in accordance to that. So planning involves setting such standards, while controlling is made by comparing the actual performance with these preset standards, and deviations are ascertained as well as analyzed. That is why planning is the first function, primary function. What do we do there? We set the standards. And in controlling, what do? We compare the actual performance, જે થઈ ગયું છે, જે થઈ રહ્યું છે અને જે થવું જોઈએ એ બંનેની સરખામણી થાય છે. These both things are compared, and it is seen that if any deviations are there, that is to be detected, that is to be diagnosed, and that is to be corrected also. તો એ કંટ્રોલિંગનું ફંક્શન છે કે જે પણ એકચ્યુઅલ પરફોર્મન્સ થયું છે એ એક્ઝેક્ટલી એના જે પ્રીસેટ સ્ટાન્ડર્ડ્સ હતા પ્લાનિંગમાં એ પ્રમાણે થયું છે કે નહીં. ઇફ નોટ, then the deviations can be found out, it can be detected, the differences can be detected, and then the further care can be taken up to see that they are corrected and they are not repeated, right? So a function છે controlling નું. So effective control presupposes the planning. So effective control છે એ planning ને support કરે છે. Thus we say that planning and controlling are intimately related functions, right? They are very close functions to each other. So production planning involves efficient use of what? 4 M's, that is the money, the machines, the material, or the manpower. When you coordinate all the functions, that is what is said to be manufacturing or production planning. While production control is what? It's the adjustment of the plans in response to deviations noted. And what we do under planning? Then under planning production control, what we do is we just check it that whatever the plans are we doing exactly according to it or not? And if not, then we make the changes. This is what in short is the introduction to production planning and the production control as the activity of the production management. Here, as I told you earlier, we are going to as we have divided it into 3 parts, we are going to first check out with the what is production planning exactly, right? So it involves management decision on the resources that the firm will require to manufacture its operations. Thus, what is production planning? Then it involves such kind of managerial decisions related to resources. Resources means 4 M's. It may be materials, machines, money, or manpower that the firm will require to produce so and so amount of some kind of product, or to take care of all the manufacturing operations. So it involves the selection of these resources to produce the desired goods at a proper appropriate price and at the least cost. So the selection of such resources is done under planning, so that the desired goods, that means જે આપણે ઈચ્છીએ છીએ goods produce કરવાનું appropriate ક્વોન્ટિટીમાં, ક્વોલિટીમાં અને એપ્રોપ્રિએટ એફોર્ડેબલ પ્રાઇઝમાં, અને મોસ્ટ ઇમ્પોર્ટન્ટલી એટ લીસ્ટ કોસ્ટ, ઓછામાં ઓછા ખર્ચે આપણે પ્રોડ્યુસ કરી શકીએ એ જોવાનું ને એના એ બધા રિસોર્સિસને ધ્યાનમાં લઈને પ્લાન કરવાનું. દેટ ઇઝ ઓલ અબાઉટ પ્રોડક્શન પ્લાનિંગ. Thus, production planning is essential prerequisite to production control. See, production control cannot be done without production planning. So, production planning is prerequisite. પહેલાં production control કરતાં પહેલાંની જરૂરિયાતની activity છે. So, it is pre-essential or maybe prerequisite of the production plan or production control. So let us check out with one of the definition there. So production planning is defined as what? The technique of what? Foreseeing or picturing ahead every step in a long series of separate operations. Each step to be taken in the right place, of the right degree and at the right time, and each operation to be done at maximum efficiency. Alfred and Betty has given the definition to production planning. According to it, it is a technique of what? Foreseeing, પહેલેથી જોઈ લેવું, પિક્ચરિંગ અહેડ, વોટ એવરી સ્ટેપ ઇન અ લોંગ સિરીઝ, બધા જ સ્ટેપ્સ જે આપણે લોંગ સિરીઝમાં પરફોર્મ કરવાના છે, સેપરેટ ઓપરેશન્સમાં પરફોર્મ કરવાના છે, each step is taken and we see it and we plan out that each step is taken up at the right place, in the right degree and at the right time, and each operation is done with the maximum efficiency. આ જે જોવાનું કામ છે એને production planning કહેવાય, right? So if we want to study quickly with the objectives of production planning, we can say that production planning has these many goals. Like number 1, to estimate the kind of resources. That means whatever 4 M's are required, it includes what? Money, material, manpower and maybe the machines, right? Whatever they are required, they are coming up in a proper quantity, right? They are coming up in the proper quantity and quality on the basis of sales forecast. So it is also estimated when and where these resources will be required. So second objective is it also estimates when and where. When and where means ક્યારે અને કેવી રીતે આ resources છે એની requirement રહેશે, so that the production of the desired goods made in the most economical manner. That means પહેલું objective જે estimate કરવું કે what kind of resources will be required. Number 2, it estimates when and where, ક્યારે અને કેવી રીતે resourcesનો ઉપયોગ થશે અથવા requirement ઊભી થશે. Next is it aims at all the necessary arrangements so as to reach the production targets as set in the production budget and master schedule. એટલે બધા જ necessary arrangement જે પણ 4 M's આપણે લઈ આવીએ છીએ, that is not enough. એને પ્રોડક્શનના ટાર્ગેટ માટે વાપરવાના છે, એને કેવી રીતે અરેન્જ કરવા, એન્ડ હાઉ ધ પ્રોડક્શન બજેટ એન્ડ માસ્ટર સ્કેડ્યુલ ઇઝ ટુ બી મેન્ટેન, રાઇટ? દેટ ઇઝ ઓલ્સો વન ઓફ ધ ઓબ્જેક્ટિવ ઓફ પ્રોડક્શન પ્લાનિંગ. નેક્સ્ટ કમ્સ અપ ઇઝ ઇટ હેલ્પ્સ ટુ ડિસાઇડ ધ લેવલ ઓફ સ્ટોક ટુ મીટ ધ માર્કેટ કન્ડિશન્સ. જે રીતે માર્કેટની ડિમાન્ડ છે એ પ્રમાણે લેવલ ઓફ સ્ટોક યુનિટની અંદર, કંપનીની અંદર, મેન્યુફેક્ચરિંગ યુનિટની અંદર છે કે નહીં, એ આપણે પ્રોડક્શન પ્લાનિંગ કરીએ તો એના દ્વારા વી કેન ડિસાઇડ ધ લેવલ ઓફ સ્ટોક. નેક્સ્ટ કમ્સ અપ ઇઝ ઇટ એમ્સ ટુ ensure the steady flow of production. કારણ કે પ્રોડક્શન પ્લાનિંગ કરેલું છે, we exactly know what will be the resources that will be required and we can arrange well in advance for the flow of these materials, or maybe we get to see it that whatever the production is to be taken up, it is taken up say flawlessly, or it is taken up in a proper smooth flow, right? Next comes up is it creates a kind of balance in the various activities. With the help of production planning, we can create the balance in the various activities, right? Whatever the things required, a proper timing, a channel, a kind of materials, everything can be managed well. Next comes up is it helps to coordinate each operation and inputs efficiently. Naturally આપણને ખબર જ છે કે કેટલા રિસોર્સિસની ક્યાં જરૂર પડવાની છે, એ પ્રમાણે આપણે બધી જ ઓપરેશન્સને અને બધા જ ઇનપુટ્સને ઇફેક્ટિવલી અને એફિશિયન્ટલી કોર્ડિનેટ કરી શકીએ છીએ. સો ઇટ હેલ્પ્સ ટુ coordinate each operations and inputs likewise. Next comes up is it helps to utilize available resources in the optimum capacity. It helps to make the arrangement for all the available resources, right? Whatever the optimum resources or whatever the use of these resources can be made, that can be done in its optimum capacity. Next, to operate the plants accordingly to predetermined level of efficiency. With the help of production planning, આપણને બધી જ ખબર છે કે 4 M's, that is 4 M's, how it is to be utilized. આપણે predetermined પહેલેથી નક્કી કરેલા લેવલ ઓફ પ્રોડક્શન છે કે એફિશિયન્સી છે એને કેવી રીતે મીટ કરી શકશું. નેક્સ્ટ, to utilize production facilities to its maximum with minimum ઓપરેટિવ કોસ્ટ. કોઈ પણ યુનિટ પ્રોડક્શન યુનિટ હોય એનું પ્રાઇમ ઇમ્પોર્ટન્સ અથવા તો પ્રાઇમ કન્સિડરેશન એ હોય છે કે જેટલી આપણી પાસે ફેસિલિટીઝ છે એનો મેક્સિમમ ઉપયોગ થાય અને ઓપરેટિવ કોસ્ટ છે એ મિનિમાઇઝડ થાય. દેટ મીન્સ ઓછામાં ઓછા ખર્ચે વધારેમાં વધારે અને સારામાં સારું ગુડ્સ કેવી રીતે અથવા પ્રોડક્ટ કેવી રીતે પ્રોડ્યુસ થાય, બધી જ ફેસિલિટીઝને કેવી રીતે વાપરી શકાય એ પણ આપણે પ્રોડક્શન પ્લાનિંગથી ફિક્સ કરી શકીએ છીએ. નેક્સ્ટ ઓબ્જેક્ટિવ ઇઝ ટુ ગાઈડ ડે ટુ ડે operations. With the help of production planning, every day's operation can be known to everyone, and that is why we can help to have the proper manufacturing done, and then thereby we can take up even the production control properly. Next is to increase the profit of the unit. Naturally, the profit is the sole purpose, one of the sole purpose of the unit to survive, right? For every organization, profit makes a lot of difference and it is of lot of importance. So for every manufacturing unit, it is that profit making or profit maximization is one of the important area or important goal to be achieved. And if you want to achieve that with the help of production planning, we can do it very well. So the profit of the firm or maybe the profitability of the firm can be increased likewise. Next comes up is importance of production planning. Why it is important to take up the planning? See, above we saw all the objectives કે આ ધ્યેયને ધ્યાનમાં રાખીને production planning લેવામાં આવે છે. હવે અહીંયા we are going to see it why it is important to take up production planning. Right? As we can see, production planning helps to set the objectives. આપણે objectives set કરી શકીએ છીએ. બીજી importance, it helps to face the unforeseen conditions જે આપણને ખબર નથી પણ it is going to happen. So those activities or those unforeseen conditions we can plan beforehand, right? Then again we can make the best utilization of the resources and can help to have the production planning done properly. That means best utilization, resources નું best utilization થઈ શકે, scarce resources નું સારામાં સારું utilization થઈ શકે અને એના દ્વારા પ્લાનિંગ છે એ બરાબર થાય એના માટે production planning is very very important. Next is it provides the base for the production control. We have seen earlier in the introductory part that production planning is a prerequisite of production control. That means production control કરવું છે તો production planning કરવું ખૂબ જ જરૂરી છે because it provides a kind of base or platform. Next, optimum time utilization is possible through production planning. That means whatever time is there for production or whatever the time requirement is there, each second, each minute and every fraction of the second can be utilized properly if we have done proper production planning. So that is also one of the important reason why the production planning is required, because optimum time utilization can be there. We can utilize whatever the time of manufacturing is in the best possible manner, right? When we talk about the next area, it is planning procedure. સી કંઈ પણ ફંક્શન છે તો એનું એક પ્રોસિજર હોય, એની એક સિસ્ટમેટિક સિરીઝ ઓફ એક્શન હોય. Then here also we are going to check with the planning procedure, right? So one by one we'll see the steps. Here we will just try to get to know what is planning procedure. Unless the plans are formulated, no materialized results can be obtained. We know this, right? That unless we don't prepare any plans, we don't get any hard results or we do not get any concrete result. Materialized result cannot be obtained without plans. So planning, thus the plans are always formulated in the light of specified future period. See, planning is done for future. Future is uncertain. We know this, right? So always the plans are formulated keeping in mind the future period or maybe the time in the future that is kept in mind, the demand in the future is kept in mind, what will be the situation in the future is kept in mind. On the basis of that, a forecasting is done, a prediction is done, and then the plans are fixed. Again, the plans are made to be implemented taking into consideration the estimated cost and agreed policies. Naturally, plans આપણે આ બધી જ વસ્તુને ફ્યુચરને ધ્યાનમાં રાખીને, ફ્યુચરની ડિમાન્ડને ધ્યાનમાં રાખીને, રિસોર્સિસને ધ્યાનમાં રાખીને કરવામાં આવે છે. એટ ધ સેમ ટાઈમ the plans are to be implemented, means અમલમાં મૂકીએ છીએ ત્યારે એસ્ટિમેટેડ કોસ્ટ અને જે યુનિટની પોતાની પોલિસીસ છે એને ધ્યાનમાં રાખી અને પછી પ્લાન્સને ઇમ્પ્લિમેન્ટ કરવાના છે. right? So the cost may include so many costs like capital cost of asset, maybe plant facilities, maybe the inventory cost, labor cost, cost of setting the operations, it may be material handling cost, labor cost, so many types of costs are involved. So before making any plans, all these considerations is done, and then a kind of proper procedure is being followed, right? So planning, maybe production planning is having a series of activities. As we can see it starts with demand forecast. In the previous session we have already seen that how forecasting is related to plant layout, right? How it is related to production. So here the same thing is there, that at the first stage if we want to make plans we have to foresee the future. આપણે આગળ ભવિષ્યને જોવું પડશે, અને એના માટે કારણ કે પ્રોડક્શનની વાત કરીએ છીએ, મેન્યુફેક્ચરિંગની વાત કરીએ છીએ, જે વસ્તુઓ મેન્યુફેક્ચર કરવાની છે એ કેટલી અમાઉન્ટમાં, કયા સ્પેસિફિકેશનમાં, વોટ શુડ બી ધ ક્વોલિટી, ક્વોન્ટિટી, specifications, everything is to be decided on the basis of whatever it is or in whatever form it is demanded. So first of all what we need to do is we need to focus on demand forecasts, right? So the first stage of production plan is to demand forecast or check the forecasting, or we check the demand, what will be the expected demand in future of a particular product, and then we plan out with its say production. So no production is possible without the estimated demand of the product. This stage represents the anticipated level of demand. That means what will be asked in future, what will be the demand of the product in future, that is taken up into the count, right? So it also shows the pattern of demand. Demand કઈ પ્રકારની રહેશે, માંગ કોઈપણ વસ્તુની કઈ પ્રકારની રહેશે, વધારે રહેશે, ઓછી રહેશે, how it will be anticipated or how it will occur, એનું એક prediction કરવામાં આવે છે. And the pattern of the demand may be regular, as I told you, it may be in a steady form, right? It may be in a seasonal form, and according to that the production may be planned. Because if it is a seasonal kind of item, say raincoats, then raincoats are not needed in few countries for all throughout the year. Then in that case, if a unit is producing a raincoat, then it does not need to plan out whole throughout the year that how the demand would be. It is the seasonal product, and that is why in the rainy season only the demand would arise, and what will be the demand that can be predicted, and accordingly this seasonal product can be made or it can be manufactured, right? So the demand of the pattern of the demand should be checked beforehand. Next comes up is, thus this is a vital step for the further future, right? Next, number 2, once we have set the demand forecast or demand forecasting is done, what we need to do is we need to or we need to specify the production requirement, that okay, this is the demand, this would be the tentative demand of some product. Then accordingly what we need to do is we need to now check that if we want to make things according to demand, are we having all the requirements or not, and that is what is said to be second stage, that is specification of production requirement. At this stage we convert the demand forecast into the specification of what products are required. કઈ પ્રકારની ડિમાન્ડ છે અને કયું પ્રોડક્ટની રિક્વાયરમેન્ટ છે એના આધારે એક સ્પેસિફિકેશન તૈયાર કરવામાં આવે છે. The customization, if any, is taken into consideration in the light of available resources and capacity. Customization means what the customer's requirement is, and accordingly are we going to provide them or not, or if it is a customized product, then that is all the specifications, all the requirement on the part of the customers are noted, and it is checked that if we want to produce this, then are we having all the resources in accordance to that or not, or are we having the capacity to produce it or not. એ વસ્તુ છે એ આપણે અહીંયા આપણે ચેક કરીએ છીએ, અથવા we try to consider it. And the tolerance limit is also set. Tolerance limit means we can not go beyond certain લિમિટ ઓફ પ્રોડક્શન. દેટ મીન્સ તમે અમુક જે હાજર કેપેસિટી છે અથવા તો જે હાજર મટીરિયલ છે, જે પણ રિસોર્સિસ છે, એના આધારે નક્કી કરી શકાય છે કે પર ડે આટલું જ પ્રોડક્શન થઈ શકે, પર વીક આટલું જ પ્રોડક્શન થઈ શકે એક્ઝિસ્ટિંગ કેપેસિટી સાથે. ઇફ મોર પ્રોડક્શન ઇઝ રિક્વાયર્ડ, દેન વી નીડ ટુ એડજસ્ટ અકોર્ડિંગલી, એન્ડ દેટ ઇઝ વોટ વી કેન ડુ ઇટ. Those tolerance limits can be checked out and can be set at these levels. So demand forecast is the first stage. Next there has to be specification of the production requirement, and at the third stage we set the production rate. That means આપણે પહેલાંમાં ડિમાન્ડ ચેક કરી લીધી, એ પ્રમાણે આપણી પાસે રિસોર્સિસ છે કે નહીં, કેટલી કેપેસિટી છે ને એને કેવી રીતે યુટિલાઇઝ કરવી, એને આપણે સેકન્ડ સ્ટેજમાં મૂકી. થર્ડ સ્ટેજની અંદર વી આર સેટિંગ ધ production rate. That means how much to be produced, how it is to be produced, that is to be decided. Everything cannot be produced at a time, right? So at this stage the production requirements are broken into periods and production schedule is prepared. So on the basis of the available capacity, whatever the resources we have, the production rate is planned. As I told you earlier કે કઈ પ્રકારનું ડિમાન્ડ છે એના આધારે આપણી પાસે કઈ પ્રકારના રિસોર્સિસ છે અને હવે એ રિસોર્સિસને કઈ રીતે આખા દિવસ દરમિયાનમાં, વીક દરમિયાનમાં અથવા તો જે પીરિયડ ઓફ પ્રોડક્શન છે એમાં કઈ રીતે વાપરશું, how it can be scheduled so that we can achieve the production rate, that is to be planned. So on the basis of production rate, then the inventory holding schedule is prepared. So if a daily we are going to produce suppose 200 items, then these 200 items may require 200 units of the raw materials, then that is to be kept on hand, right? So daily you need 200 units. So for 6 days it is going to be 1200 units that will be required, and likewise the inventory can be placed and a kind of schedule can be maintained. So these may be these may be difficult in the case of seasonal demand. Yes, in seasonal demand, because there is no regular pattern of demand, on the basis of season and on the basis of trend it is dependent. So these may be little difficult for the seasonal product, but for the major products, the regular products, this thing can be managed, or this step can be worked out. Though many mathematical programming methods are also used to practice for planning seasonal demand. So there is a way out to even plan out seasonal demand, right? There are few mathematical and statistical methods through which we can calculate and we can plan out with the seasonal demand. Anyways, what we do here is that we set the production rate, that how much it is to be produced in what time period, that is decided at the third stage. And at the fourth stage, controlling production. That means there are probabilities that after the production plan is made and set to the operations, the actual stock of finished goods may fall below or exceed the plans. There are all chances that even though we are making all the arrangements beforehand, right, the actual production may be little different, or maybe the stock of finished goods may be higher to the expectations, or it may even go lower at times. So there are all chances of discrepancies arising in the estimated and actual sales. That means એવું બને કે differences આવે. શેમાં ડિફરન્સીસ આવશે તો કે જે પણ વસ્તુ તૈયાર કરવાની હતી અને જે તૈયાર થઈ છે, અથવા તો એકચ્યુઅલ સેલ્સ જે ધારેલો હતો અને ખરેખર જે થયું છે એમાં ચેન્જીસ આવી શકે છે. સો દેટ ઇઝ ટુ બી ટેકન કેર ઓફ, એન્ડ ધીસ અરાઇઝિસ there arises the need for periodic adjustments in the production, and this can be undertaken through this stage. So at this stage જેટલું પ્રોડ્યુસ કરવાનું હતું અને જેટલું પ્રોડ્યુસ થયું છે, whether they are same or not, whether they are according to the demand or not, whether the same number of products have been sold off or not, everything is being checked. If any difference found out, then the adjustments according to that is going to be made, અને એ adjustments કરવા પડે for future, right? So that is what is said to be controlling production. So if we are just going to brief it, that what is the production planning series of activities, how it is being taken up, then at the first stage it is the demand forecast that we need to do. At the second stage we make the specifications regarding the production requirement. At the third stage we are setting the production rate, and at the fourth stage what do is that we take up with controlling production, right? So here we are ending up with the basic idea as to what is production planning, under which we have tried to understand what is production planning. We have seen the objectives, we have seen the importance, and what is general series of performing production planning that we have checked out. Now what we are going to do is we are going to see the second part, that is production control, right? So what is production control? Supposingly I have already narrated it earlier also in brief. Here we will check out with all these points, we will try to understand what is production control. So where the production planning strives to set the production targets and plans the availability of the resources so as to translate the target into realities, the production control keeps a constant watch on the production flow and use of resources. જ્યાં production planning નું કામ શું છે તો કે production target set કરવા, availability of the resources જોવું અને એ ટાર્ગેટ્સને રિયાલિટીઝમાં ફેરવવાનું કામ છે, એ production planning નું છે. તો production control immediate followed function છે, એના પછી તરત આવતો એરિયા ઓફ વર્ક છે. What does it do? It keeps a constant watch. constant watch on what? Whether the production flow and the use of resources is done properly or not. જે પ્રકારે પ્રોડક્શન થવું જોઈએ, જે ફ્લો ઓફ પ્રોડક્શન હોવું જોઈએ એ પ્રમાણે એક્ઝેક્ટલી આપણે પ્રોડક્શન કરી શકીએ છીએ કે નહીં એ જોવાનું કામ છે, ચેક કરવાનું કામ છે, અને પ્રોપર યુસેજ ઓફ રિસોર્સિસ છે કે નહીં એ જોવાનું કામ છે. દેટ કમ્સ અપ એઝ ધ production control. So deviations are detected. So what exactly do we do in this particular function? Then we check the deviations, we check the defects, we check the we try to detect the differences એટલે આપણે શોધી શકીએ છીએ તફાવત. વી કેન કમ્પેર. વોટ વી કેન કમ્પેર એકચ્યુઅલ પરફોર્મન્સ, કે એકચ્યુઅલ પ્રોડક્શન આટલું થયું છે અને ખરેખર કેટલું કરવાનું હતું, એમાં જો કોઈ પણ પ્રકારના ડિફરન્સીસ આવે અને એ ચેક કરીને આપણે કરેક્ટ કરીએ છીએ એને પ્રોડક્શન કંટ્રોલ કહેવાય. Right? So deviations are detected and prompt actions are made for the adjustments for the same. That means deviations ખાલી ગોતવાના, differences શોધવાના એ controllingનું કામ નથી. Controlling or production controlling finds out the differences, that what was to be produced and what is produced, and then it tries to make the adjustments accordingly. So it works as a facilitating services to manufacturing. So it is very important to carry out this production control system or maybe the function. So it coordinates all the production operations by collecting the various types of inputs and outputs. It also makes necessary arrangement or maybe adjustment as and when required. જેવા deviations દેખાય, જેવા differences દેખાય એને તરત જ એના related જે પણ adjustments કરવાની જરૂર પડે, that is done under production control. Right? So it directs and checks the course and progress of the work. So it constantly directs that when it was to be done like this, but it is done like this, then we need to check it, and that course of progress is checked on a continuous basis. So it also helps to close the records on the completion of the work of the order. So because it puts a constant eye on how it is produced, what it was to be produced, with what it was to be produced, what resources are placed in use, what was to be used, આ બધી જ વસ્તુને કારણ કે કોન્સ્ટન્ટલી ક્લોઝલી ઓબ્ઝર્વ કરવામાં આવે છે અંડર ધીસ સિસ્ટમ, વી કેન મેનેજ with all the types of say the activities related to production. Right? So let us go with the next area there, that is objectives of production control. Now what are the objectives? We have seen what is control. Right? Production control નું કામ શું છે? તો કે મેન્યુફેક્ચરિંગ એક્ટિવિટી જે પ્રમાણે પ્લાન કરેલી છે એ પ્રમાણે થાય છે કે નહીં એ જોવાનું કામ છે. that is the work of production control. If not, if any deviations or differences are found out, તો આપણે એને rectify કરવાના છે, so that the production flow is taken up exactly according to what is being planned or whatever is being demanded. So it is very crucial activity. Now what we are going to see, we are going to check the objectives કે production control નો ધ્યેય શું છે, production control નો objective શું છે. Number 1, to implement the production plans by issuing necessary orders. જે પણ પ્લાન્સ બનેલા છે એને એ જ પ્રમાણે કામ કરાવવા માટે જે પણ નેસેસરી ઓર્ડર્સ છે એ કંટ્રોલિંગ દ્વારા શક્ય થાય છે. નેક્સ્ટ, ટુ એન્શ્યોર ધ રિસોર્સિસ, દેટ મીન્સ 4 M's ઇઝ ઇન રિક્વાયર્ડ ક્વોલિટી એન્ડ ક્વોન્ટિટી એટ ધ પ્રોપર ટાઈમ એન્ડ પ્રોપર પ્લેસ. એટલે કંટ્રોલિંગથી આપણને એક્ઝેક્ટ રિસોર્સિસનો જે ઉપયોગ કરવાનો છે, કઈ પ્રકારે કેટલું રિસોર્સિસ ઇન વોટ ક્વોન્ટિટી ક્વોલિટી ઇઝ રિક્વાયર્ડ, દેટ કેન બી noted or that can be ensured. Next, to ensure the execution of the plans according to the schedules. જે પણ મેજર ટાઈમ સ્કેડ્યુલ્સ બનેલા છે એ જ પ્રમાણે પ્રોડક્શન પ્લાનિંગ થયેલું છે ને એ જ પ્રમાણે કામ થાય છે કે નહીં, એ જે એક્ઝિક્યુશન ઓફ ધ પ્લાન છે દેટ કેન બી ચેકડ વેલ વિથ ધ હેલ્પ ઓફ પ્રોડક્શન control. So 3 important objectives. Number 1, to implement the production plan by issuing the orders. Number 2, to check or ensure that all the resources required are available in proper quantity and quality, and to ensure that the execution of the plan is done properly. Right? So these are the 3 objectives. When we talk about the scope or functions of production control, because production control is a function taken up after planning, it has a wide scope, it has got all the areas to be checked, and that is why the scope or activity or maybe the functions of production control is very wide. Activity, like we have mentioned it here, overall we have mentioned, we have tried to see all the say necessary functions here, or all the areas here, right? First of all, it is activity control. That means whatever the activities are done, the control is being placed on that. So release of orders and resources through dispatching is being done here in the controlling. That means whatever the resources are required, how it is to be used, and the orders related to it are say sent through dispatching. Next, the inventory is to be controlled. So control on inventory. Inventory means all the types of raw materials or semi-finished goods, or whatever components, subparts we require for production, they can be considered as inventory. So it observes proper ordering, receipt, issuing, storing, and the movement of the inventory. So controlling નું કામ શું છે? Ordering કરવાનું જરૂર પડે, right? Receipts of the inventory, that means to receive it and to keep the records of it, to store and issue, and to check the movement of the inventories also. So that is the control on inventory. The next area is control on tools. So availability of the proper tools as required by the specification of the production. That means whatever production facilities are required, whatever the materials are required, we have seen in the inventory. And if whatever the machines or tools are required, whether they are available in proper number and in proper specification or not, that is checked under control on tools. Next comes up is control on timings of the production. So it constantly regulates the entire flow of production by observing the delays, maybe the stoppages, any kind of unnecessary rushes in each operation, so that the delivery dates can be maintained and the deadlines can be met. So constantly it keeps a watch on how the production should be produced, in what timing it should be produced, is there any kind of unnecessary stoppages, is there any kind of delays, are there any kind of unnecessary rushes. Everything is being checked out, and that is what is said. The purpose behind this is to maintain the proper timing of the production, right? So and the deadlines to be met. So that can be done here in this area. Next comes up is quality control. See, these days the consumers in the last a few decades we have all grown into a quality conscious consumers, right? So every time we want the qualitative product, and that is why the manufacturer have to keep a constant eye on how the quality of the product is being served, or maybe services is being maintained, and that is what is done under the quality control. So it is the observation of work in progress at predetermined stages, and to determine whether the right quality of acceptable work has been processed or not. That is why whatever the quality was expected and whatever is being produced, is that the right quality of the product or not, which can be accepted well by the the consumers, that is being checked under quality control. Next comes up is replacement control. So it observes that the rejected raw materials and work in progress are replaced by the fresh inventory. See, all the time when we receive the products or we receive the inventory, they may not be always of the same quality or specification that we have required. At times work in progress goods, that means semi-finished goods, are also not of the required quality or maybe specification. Then at that time they have to be immediately replaced, right? Immediately replaced in the sense એને જગ્યાએ બીજી ગુડ્સ કે બીજી ઇન્વેન્ટરીઝ આવી જવી જોઈએ. તો એ પણ રિપ્લેસમેન્ટ કંટ્રોલ છે, એ પણ એક એરિયા ઓફ વર્ક છે ઓફ ધી controlling system or planning maybe the production control, right? Next comes up is to check the labor efficiency. That means in a labor oriented unit, that means where labor plays important role than machines, then it maintains the labor efficiency, say by comparing the allowed time and the time taken. That means to complete suppose a work, 15 minutes is allowed to a person or maybe a worker, right, or a laborer, but he completes it before time, then it's a good efficiency on his part. And if he takes too much time beyond 15 minutes, then that area is to be checked. That efficiency related to time and the performance can be checked under this area, that is labor efficiency control. Next comes up is control on machines and equipments. So this area strives to attain the maximum utilization of installed capacity, and the machines can be maintained from time to time. That means Here it is checked that whatever the installed capacity was, that means whatever the fixed capacity was, are the machines exactly working according to installed capacity or not, whether they are maintained from time to time or not, whether the wear and tear of the machine is taken care of or not. So whatever the machines and equipments are used or installed, their capacity is utilized to its optimum level or not is being checked in this area, right? So wherever the maintenance is required, wherever the replacement is required of the worn out part, those things can be undertaken. Why? Because it ultimately affects the production cycle, and in no case we can say lengthen the production cycle, we can take it longer. A production cycle, manufacturing cycle ને આપણે લાંબી કરવાનો કોઈ મતલબ રહેતો નથી, because at that time we are not meeting the deadlines, and if you are not meeting the deadlines, the customer satisfaction is not there. That is why the machines and equipments are to be controlled. That means they are to be maintained properly, and it becomes the area of control, one of the area of the control. Next comes up is control on methods. So the better methods in the course of time should be utilized, means you should not be using the obsolete methods, outdated methods કે ટેકનિક્સનો ઉપયોગ ન કરતા હોવા જોઈએ, so that we can meet with the specified demand and we can be in the race properly. So that is said to be the control on methods. Next comes up is control on the progress of orders, right? So the observation on the progress of orders and makes the adjustment. That means whatever the order comes up, exactly according to that, those orders, the manufacturing is being done or not. If not, then whether to take it fast or to slow it down, that can be decided with the help of production control, and that is why it becomes the area of work. Here we are going to check out a few factors deciding the production control process. Now before going to the process, what is the process that we will see it? It is a 4-staged process, but before that there are very important determinants અથવા તો factors છે, એવા પરિબળો છે જે production control process ને say control કરતા હોય, અથવા તો say any changes in these factors may affect the production control, right? So the production control function varies from organization to organization. Generally the following factors affect the production control. Here very generalized factors are taken up into account. Controlling function કોનાથી અફેક્ટ થાય છે? તો નંબર 1, નેચર ઓફ બિઝનેસ, કઈ પ્રકારનો બિઝનેસ છે. ફોર એક્ઝામ્પલ, ધ કમ્પેરિઝન બિટવીન આયર્ન એન્ડ સ્ટીલ એન્ડ કેમિકલ ઇન્ડસ્ટ્રી કેન નોટ બી ડન, because the iron and steel may be having altogether a different type of manufacturing and different type of setup, and that cannot be controlled or that cannot be compared with chemical industry. So બધાની પોતપોતાની controlling system અલગ હોઈ શકે. Next comes up is scale of operation. That means the large size units may be more complex as compared to any other. Large size unit માં કારણ કે activities વધારે છે, production વધારે છે, capital investment વધારે છે, so the function, the number of functions are quite a big, right? Then at that time it cannot be compared, its activity or production control cannot be compared with a cottage industry or maybe a very small scaled industry. So it is the scale of operation. Next comes up is types of manufacturing. Types of manufacturing means the control procedure may be very complex as compared to that of the continuous type of manufacturing. See, at times it may so happen that type of manufacturing varies. ઘણી વખત બલ્કમાં પ્રોડ્યુસ થતું હોય, સ્ટાન્ડર્ડાઇઝ પ્રોડક્ટ પ્રોડ્યુસ થાય છે, તો એનું આખું સેટઅપ જુદું હોઈ શકે. એન્ડ એટ ટાઈમ્સ ધ મેન્યુફેક્ચરિંગ ઇઝ ડન ઓન ઓર્ડર બેઝ. દેટ મીન્સ say customized goods નું manufacturing થતું હોય, then at that time there can be the procedure or the controlling method differs, right? So it is the type of manufacturing. At times it may be complex, or it may, at times if the manufacturing is simple enough, then in accordance to that the production controlling is taken up. Next comes up is degree of mechanization. That means how you are, to what extent you are using the machines. So under the automatic production system, the production flow is controlled automatically, because by it is, that is why it is automatic, right? And we do not need any kind of controlling external. So the control system under the automatic production system is simple in relation to the non-automotive ઓપરેશન્સ. ઓટોમેટિક મશીન્સની અંદર જો મેન્યુફેક્ચરિંગ થતું હોય તો કંટ્રોલિંગ સિસ્ટમ વિધિન છે, ઇનબિલ્ટ છે, એની અંદર જ છે. તો ઓટોમેટિક સિસ્ટમની અંદર જો પ્રોડક્શન કન્ટિન્યુઅસલી થતું હોય તો યુ નીડ અ લેસ ટાઈપ ઓફ પ્રોડક્શન કંટ્રોલ દે એઝ અગેન્સ્ટ જ્યાં મેન્યુઅલ વર્ક થાય છે અથવા તો ઓટોમેટિક મશીન્સ દ્વારા સે પ્રોડક્શન નથી થતું. તો એટ દેટ ટાઈમ ધ ડેવિએશન્સ આર એક્સપેક્ટેડ ઓર મે બી ત્યાં કોઈ પણ ટાઈપના ફ્લોઝ આવે, કોઈ પણ ટાઈપની પ્રોડક્શનમાં ક્ષતિઓ આવે એવું બને. સો દેટ ટાઈમ ધ પ્રોડક્શન મે બી રિક્વાયર્ડ, the controlling may be required to a higher degree. Next and the last one comes up is management policy. Management philosophy is what? It is the progressive organization provides for the exhaustive control procedure, while traditional firms ignore or makes insufficient provision for the control machinery. કઈ ટાઈપની ફિલોસોફીથી યુનિટ અથવા કંપની કામ કરે છે? જો પ્રોગ્રેસિવ હોય તો ઇટ પ્રોવાઇડ્સ એક્ઝોસ્ટિવ કંટ્રોલ. સો ઇટ ઇઝ અ વેરી કોન્શિયસ યુનિટ and it keeps a continuous control on all the activities of the production. But if it is a traditional firm following the traditional philosophies, then many a times it ignores the control and insufficient controlling system may be required. So these are in short all the determinants which tells us that they are to be taken care of, or because of this the controlling production control may be different. Here we are moving towards the last part of our today's session, that is difference between production planning and production control, right? Because here in today's session we have completed with both the aspects, that is the production planning in the first phase and production control in the second phase. Here we are trying to see that functionally how they are different from each other, and then in the next session I'll be telling you that how then these both the things comes together and forms the PPC, that is production planning and control, as an aggregate kind of function, which is the part of your which is the major part of your unit, right? So let us see it, how production planning or what functions are taken up or what happens in production planning. So production planning, under production planning there is a preparation of the production budget, right? There is preparing the manufacturing methods and the sequence of processes, say prescribing the type of machines and equipments, to set the plant layout, to prepare the operation sheet and instruction cards, to undertake the time and motion study for the operations, to estimate the material requirement, the manpower requirement, and to prepare the master schedule of the production. That means these many activities are the activities of the production planning, right? Like we prepare the production budget, we prepare the manufacturing methods, we select the sequence of it, we select the types of machines and equipments, we draw the plant layout, right? It means the arrangement of the machinery. We prepare the operation sheet and instruction cards, that how the operations are to be set, how they are to be performed, and wherever instructions are required instruction cards are inserted, right? Time and motion study is being done. This is a very wide area wherein the time is being checked and every motion of the labor and unnecessary motion is being checked and is removed. That is the whole study there. It's a big area and it's a very vast area. So that is a part of production planning. Next comes up is to estimate the material requirements, right? Whatever the materials are required, whatever the manpower is required, or whatever the machines are required, everything is being checked and is being taken care under the main function of production planning. Then what happens in production control? Then in production control what we can do is we can subdivide the master schedule in manufacturing schedule, in manufacturing and subsidiary orders. We can route, that means we can check the path, right? We can schedule and we can see the machine loading, we can dispatch the orders, and we can take up the follow-ups and the tool keepings. These kind of activities are generally undertaken under the production control. Why? Because whatever has been planned, exactly according to that the things are done or not is the work of production control. So all these things are taken care under the main function of production control. So here I end up today's session, right? When we meet next, we'll be taking up with PPC, as you can see it here, that is the production planning and control. Till we meet next, it's a goodbye from my side. Take care of yourselves. Thank you.